Holy shit. All right, I'm on. I'm live. Listen, today I'm going to try to wing something together here. I'm going to tell a story again like I did yesterday. This is viewer's choice tonight. I'm going to call it viewer's choice because I was thinking about things and I wasn't sure about what to talk about, didn't have a lot of time. And so went to my inbox and there was a request. And I'm hesitant to talk about this request. I didn't even post a placard because I didn't even want to establish that I'm going to talk about this subject because I've spent years talking about it. It's what initially kind of got me focused on somehow finding a way to vent and scream. The topic today is Trump. Okay, I'm going to talk about Trump today. But before I go there, I do want to talk about something else that you're going to notice from here on out as I try to improve my delivery. I noticed that I use a lot of filler words and I am trying to do less post-processing. So you may find me take uncomfortable pauses so that I don't add filler words that I later need to remove. This is just going to help me become a better radio style person for those folks that listen to me only. I notice I do have a couple words that I fall back on when I'm looking at things or trying to explain something, and things is one of them. So today is going to be the first voluntary effort of working on my delivery and not adding too many filler words. So you may notice that. All right. I'll still drop F-bombs. I mean, I'm still going to spice it up. But, I mean, we're talking about Trump today. That's my preamble. Listen, I'm going to get right into it. Look, the request was that I discuss Trump's narcissist personality, the cult of personality. And you can go back on the videos and you can see me talk about this nonstop. It's something that I pretty much built my bread and butter on this stream, practicing night after night, screaming, veins popping out of my neck about the chaos. I use the fable often, which is the emperor has no clothes. I'm one of the folks screaming. He's running around naked. I use more vivid imagery. He's walking around with his dick and balls swinging in my face, and everyone's telling me it's not happening. That's what it felt like. And so I hesitate to go back into these moments because I've said everything I can say. So when this request comes in, I'm like, you know what? I get it. But there's also something I'm going to throw in there, and I hope this doesn't rub anyone the wrong way. But I'm going to throw in there that the rage baiting that Trump is what mainstream media is kind of thriving on as well. I know that I can go back and fall back on Trump and discuss it, and I can't help but do it when he's the nominee, when he's doing crazy shit. He's not even front and center in the media, but he's front and center in the media because of the scandals. He's already rolling right up to the presidency with this stuff. So it's hard not to discuss. It really is. And it's something that you have to discuss. And then there's the psychology of why we're having to discuss this person. And I think that's kind of the core of what drives folks crazy, is that what the fuck is going on with people that look at this and say, hey, it's a good idea to put this person into a position of power, make decisions when we know there is no there. And so you kind of dive into it, and you know, I've talked about my anger, my bitterness, my version of what I hear as dog whistling when he talks about things about the border, and he talks about pure bloodlines and spoiling blood and those type of things. I lean on pretty much that he's a no-brainer from that racist perspective. Now, if you don't hear those things, then there's another, you know, again, for me, I kind of hesitate to understand, okay, it's so loud and clear, blah, 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 blah. I'm racist. I do everything. I hate brown people. I just don't fucking like it. I'll take out a ad in the New York Times, blah, blah, blah. And then people are like, no, he's not a racist. He's a bigot, whatever. I mean, come on. So for me, as a brown person, you can't tell if you're listening to this for the first time, as a brown person, which, you know, fuck, if that's not the way that we're supposed to say it, I'm a brown person. Okay. I'm saying what I want. I'm a brown person. I'm identifying by the tone of my skin in this instance for those people that are recording to try to get those gotcha moments. I hear that. And that's a note. That's a showstopper. Now, if that's something, if you don't hear that, or that's not important to you, or maybe there it isn't important to you because there are other issues that are more important because you don't happen to have that experience, and it's not. There's nothing wrong with that. People kind of say, "Oh, that makes you racist." It doesn't if you don't understand somebody else and you're kind of advocating for your own interest, and somebody happens to have something that's better for your interest. You may look past the race because it really doesn't matter to you. And that's not necessarily a bad thing. I'm not saying it's a good thing, but I'm saying that could be a natural tendency to say, look, this guy's talking about putting bread and butter and food and potatoes on my table so I can feed my family. And he's a little bit racist, and this person's way out there. I don't understand what's going on. I mean, it's an easy choice for survival, right? It really becomes survival, and the race thing really becomes, okay, I really don't care. That's stupid, but he's really doing this for me. I mean, you can go through that. But this is way kind of crazier in that there's no there with Trump. And then when you want to put substance to him, they won't allow you to put substance. And I think I'm going to dive into that a little bit. I'm not going to try to get academic or really cute or clever. But I don't want to just say, like, look, he's a narcissist. We know he's a malignant narcissist. I believe there's psychologists that wrote things about it. There's many people that have talked about it. People that know him say, these are the things that he is. However, it doesn't make him a bad person. For those people that are friends with him or know him, it doesn't make him a bad person per se. And again, people are going to argue that, oh, Nate, you hate him, but I've said it before. I'm saying outside of just way far away from being powerful and having kind of the nuclear button at his fingertips, I would prefer he be on the golf course doing his thing. And like I said, I'll go visit, hang out, but please, no. I mean, yes, I'm saying he's a little racist. He's racist. I'm still saying, okay, not in a place of power. I'll go to his golf course. My friends know him. They say, come down. I'll be nice, courteous. Like, that's fine. Now we put him in power. It's like, whoa. Come on, guys. No. There's a lot of people I like. I just don't put him in president. Like, oh, I look up to that person. Quite frankly, the older you get, the less you look up to people, just because you realize that everyone's just a person. And I'm not saying you don't look up to people to see people as role models per se, but like, I don't put them on pedestals as much because you realize that they're humans and people have flaws. Even these people that we elevate. I want to do a whole podcast about that. Like, let's talk about the dark secrets between about the folks that we've elevated in history and what we've ignored. And if they would pass the muster today, whether they be artists, musicians, whatever. That's a whole kind of conversation. It's interesting. But staying focused on Trump here, the narcissism, the disbelief of folks that don't understand what they see in him. And I want to get into that. And what comes to mind, of course, and they don't like it when you say it, people that admire Trump or want Trump to win or hate Biden don't like to say that they're in a cult. And not everybody is cult-like that's voting for Trump. But the cult thing is evident by people that put symbols and elevate symbols over kind of the core principles of what we're made of. But that's like a basic 101. When people start elevating symbology over kind of the core essence of what we're defending, like, oh, this flag is way more important than these things that we're doing to stomp on their rights of other people or demographics we don't agree with. The flag, you can find Facebook groups that are, the flag should be at every home, and the flag's the most important thing. If you don't have a flag, and so this symbol represents kind of this black and white, you're in or out. I mean, it's nuts. It's like pirates, right? We're like, arg, here's my pirate. I got my flag. He's got another flag. What's that guy? Arg, let's go pillage him. Whatever. I don't know what the fuck the thing, like, ultimate, like, if you take it out to its infinity, what that looks like. Everyone's got, maybe there's factions and I mean, that's what you're talking about. We're getting back to the whole division thing and this weird ass shit. Again, short-term thinking, not thinking long-term, but that makes a cult, and cults are usually self-destructive. If you haven't seen it, let me just see if I can pull it up because I had to Google it before, and I'm sure I closed all my windows. Mother of God, was it? Let me just see. There's a special on one of the things, Mother of God documentary, The Cult of Mother God. It's an interesting show because you see these things are rolling around. Oh, didn't I not hit? Yo, Instagram. I'm sorry I didn't hit live on that. You're just getting this. Apologies. I did everything right except hit live. Shit. All right. Anyway. So Cult of Mother, or the Mother of God documentary is about this woman who ends up going, her name's Amy Carlson. She's normal. She ends up having, you can tell she's having some kind of episode when she's around 21 or something like that. And that's could be schizophrenia. It seems like that. I'm not going to ruin the documentary just in case this would go viral for some fucked up reason. But the core of the thing is just talking about these folks that form this internet cult. And they create a pretty sustainable business model, to be honest. I'm kind of impressed. I'm like, you know what? Maybe I just call this Smashing the Parter Cult Leader, and that's how I win. But it shows these folks, and there's some foreshadowing when this show starts about talking about this chemical that they end up using. And they're like, well, this may not make sense, but I'm going to throw it out there. Well, there's no way that she'll turn blue. We would know, and we would never turn blue. And so if you eat this chemical, you turn blue. And so in the beginning, everyone's normal color. And so, but this cult revolves around this woman and really sustaining her through her alcoholism. And it's pretty painful to watch these folks do these crazy things. And they are normal. Of course, there's traumatic backgrounds you can trace for all of the folks that are believing this, reaffirming this fantasy world, why they're doing it. I'm not a psychologist, but it's crazy to watch. And you got to watch it because it's mind-blowing to think that humans, and I mean, the idea that this was being internet cast live and it wasn't like shut down or someone didn't go check on her or whatever. My understanding, there were check-ins, but it's just chaos. And you watch this woman eventually turn blue. I call it the Blue Lady cult. And so, but these folks are doing these things at the end where it's, to validate their belief that she's still sustaining some kind of life. They have this meter that beeps when it gets near her dead body. So it's this crazy thing where even at the end, where it's over, it's obvious there's no savior, there's no one coming. There's this kind of reaffirming this crazy that you and I would think, wow, that's how do you get there? But they're in this state where they don't even know what they were. And they talk to them after the show. And I feel for these folks, because anyone that gets wrapped up in a cult, it's brainwashing, complete brainwashing. You lose yourself. You lose who you are. And that's why I'm also anti-indoctrination of anything. You need to allow people to say, here's some things, here's the things that happen when these things happen. These are what have been good for humanity. These have been bad. This is what works. This was it doesn't. These people, and then kind of let people decide. I know that's not how it works. I have no kids. Again, we talk about that all the time. I'm fucking great armchair quarterback dad, yada, yada. Trump, that was a long pause. I told you I'm going to add those for long effect and just pause before I say basically or like or kind of. All right. This concept of being able to now I lost my thought. Motherfucker. Oh, I'm going through the Trump thing. So this cognitive bias of these folks, you're just seeing this this person eventually turn blue and they're trying to sustain her. And then they're metering her body. And even at the very end, it self-destructs and they're still riding that train. I was saying I feel sympathy for them because I know that's traumatic. It takes who you are. And indoctrination, as I said, it's not something I enjoy for anyone. I do believe people should be able to select kind of how they should be decide how they want their fate, because it's a powerful thing. And I think families should be able to influence their families, but I really don't think that things should be ingrained in the law. It should be built so that we have that freedom. So these folks kind of end up in this brainwash situation. And the reason folks look at the Trump thing is because you see the same kind of craziness. You see the flip-flopping that happens when folks kind of say, all right, I'm going to align with Trump, and the fact that you have to just kind of change how you are and how you act in all cases. Let me see if I can get a clip up. I don't know if I'll be able to get it up. Double entendre. Let me start with the first one. Can I do it?
You know, when they let, I think the real number is 15, 16 million people into our country. When they do that, we got a lot of work to do. They're poisoning the blood of our country. That's what they've done. You know, when they let, I think the real number is 15, 16 million people into our country. When they do that, we got a lot of work to do. They're poisoning the blood of our country. That's what.
So that kind of shit. So he says that, right? And his followers simply kind of just say, well, I don't think there's anything wrong with that, right? I mean, he essentially carves out the core tenet of Nazism by suggesting that folks are poisoning the blood of Americans in that nationalistic viewpoint, that there's some purity that exists and it's being soiled with the influx of these immigrants, which is bullshit nonsense, considering that we are all mutts and all immigrants in some shape or form in this country, unless you're Native American. And you could argue that they came here at some point too, probably over the Bering Strait or whatever you want to argue. So, you know, it's like, for me, it's hard to see folks that say, oh, everything's fine. And he says that. That's not old, by the way. I think I have another clip, I have a bunch of clips, and I was trying to queue them up for us, but they're tricky because I also don't want to get in trouble. So I wanted to keep the copyright.
Meeting at the Pentagon.
Here's a whole string.
Lots of generals. They were like from a movie.
Okay.
Better looking than Tom Cruise and stronger.
You can have all the technology in the world. I'm a professional in technology. When during the campaign, I would say Mexico is going to pay for it. Obviously, I never said this, and I never meant they're going to write out a check. I said they're going to pay for it.
Where do these people come from? Where do they come from?
This is an old clip.
They go back home to mommy. They
So
get
these-
punished when they get home.
These
I
are
saw
things he
this
said
man,
during 2020,
tall,
up
handsome,
until 2020.
very charismatic, making horrible statements about wanting to destroy our country. And I'm writing a book. I think I wrote 12 books. All did very well.
I just received a beautiful letter from Kim Jong-un. I can't show you the letter, obviously, but it was a very personal, very warm, very nice letter. I appreciate it.
It was actually a happy birthday letter, if you want to know the truth. It was my birthday. And he sent me a beautiful letter, happy birthday, which is nice. If you tell a joke, if you're sarcastic, if you're having fun with the audience, if you're in live television with millions of people and 25,000 people in an arena, and if you say something like, Russia, please, if you can, get us Hillary Clinton's emails. Please, Russia, please.
I don't know if I'm in trouble for playing this. I don't think so, because it's artistic, right?
Please get us the emails. Please. I'm going to be signing a national emergency. It's a great thing to do because we have an invasion of drugs, invasion of gangs, invasion of people. So we're going to confront the national security crisis on our southern border. And we're going to do it one way or the other. We have to do it. Not because it was a campaign promise, which it is. They say walls don't work. Walls work 100%. The Green New Deal.
I can't. All right. So that's Trump saying a bunch of shit back then. But what's crazy, what's interesting and frustrating of all things is when you have folks that, let me see if I can get this one.
We're talking about language.
So I'll get one of Mr. Graham. You have these folks who stated how bad of a situation it was to have Mr. Trump as the nominee. And then they get confronted on the news about the things they say and the flip-flopping. You wonder if there's some kind of mafioso pressure behind the scenes saying, yo, motherfucker, don't change your mind. You know what I mean? Like, or you better not say shit anymore now that I'm president, because these people, the way they flip-flop, it's insane. Let me see if I can.
We're talking about language. I could care less what language people use as long as we get it right.
So there's Lindsey Graham just kind of backing Trump's whatever he's saying no longer means anything. It's just about his actions. So now he can say whatever he wants and it doesn't matter because it's just what gets done. I mean, what does that say about the Republican Party when their leader, you can't even count on their words? There's another clip, one last clip, and I know I'm not a professional here. But let me see if I can get this clip focused.
You well know I'm from East Tennessee, and we don't usually talk like that. And he's from New York, and that's the way folks. He's Trump being Trump.
So this one just again an example of the crazy that they'll do. And I have lots of clips. I had a bunch of them and I was going to stream together and be a montage, but it's just, we know what's going on. You can see it. And my interest in this topic comes from the continued support no matter what. So we're at the end. As I said, if you go watch that documentary, in my opinion, we're at the part where the ladies blue and people that are coming in, people from other countries, people in this country are saying, listen, it's over. Like, this is done. You got to move on. You got to find somebody better. You can't have a nominee that's up until the election going to be tried for civil and criminal trials. You can't have the president of the United States representing America be elected knowing this is how they treat women, knowing this is how he thinks about minorities, knowing how he discards everyone around him that realizes what a buffoon he is, and he throws them out the window. And now all of a sudden, these great people that he hired become buffoons. Everyone that Trump hires is great, and everyone leaves Trump a buffoon. This is the pattern. How do you continue to say this is a good idea? Well, these people are that sold. They're looking at the blue ladies, still throwing liquid down, not believing they're blue, taking a meter, checking the pulse. Oh, yeah, it's warm. There's a pulse. Really, the pulse is their own thumb. And so they're checking their own thumb saying, wow, I still feel a pulse, even though it's not the pulse of this blue lady. This is what Trumpers look like. This is what the Republican Party is looking like as they hoist him into leadership. And you can say, well, Biden's so bad. I'm not going to say Biden's so bad. I'm going to say Biden's so old, and I hope he makes it to 4 years. Yes. But that he's so bad, that's a narrative I'm just not going to fucking eat. I understand inflation and corporate greed is going on at the same time. And those forces that want to make Biden look bad because he's pushing on some of these levers, not all of them correctly. I'm not going to give him a blank slate, just like I did in Obama. People thought I was an Obama head. I didn't give him a clean slate. I'm not giving Biden a slate. But again, as I've said before, placenta is better than Trump in all regards. That's just my baseline. So, but for those folks that just hear that and they recoil saying, well, Nate, you're just a fuck. I mean, what is the baseline for you detaching from somebody that's like the antithesis to your beliefs? So they're doing everything against your survival. What's the bottom line is my opinion, or is my question. And so for me, it becomes like, all right, how do you then engage the folks that are continuing to feed this body, as if I continue to use this metaphor of the cult of mother, what is it? The mother cult with Amy Carlson. Again, there was some mental illness, how they led to that cult, but there were folks that followed along. You could argue they all had mental illness. I mean, I'm not saying that everyone that is in the Trump cult has mental illness. But you have to say, what does it take to say this is not anything that I would ever vote for in any condition? If it was the other person or on the other side, I would have a laundry list of things I couldn't trust about this person. But because they're on this side, things they say don't mean anything so much that I can just ignore what they say and even ignore what they do. Even when they say, hey, I want to be a dictator, I just want to do this, I want to monitor women, I want to put these things, allow it so that folks can be rounded up if they're anti-me, and my political foes I will jail, and we'll get the Justice Department kind of coming after folks. He says all that shit. You read about it, or maybe you didn't read about it, but these are the things that dictators say, and folks that we study in history, they try it and they say it and they become strong men, and they appeal to a certain fragility in the civil, like in the ether, in the zeitgeist of the time, and they get there because they're riding the waves of something more primal, and that's usually fear, the fear of somebody else, and they ride that uncertainty into power, and that's what's happening. And so this woman that was in this documentary is doing the same thing. Everyone there is insecure. They're waiting on every breath that they have, and they've found themselves through these different revelations. And so they're kind of holding on to that prayer or that thread at the very end. Even after it, they're still convinced that there was something there, even though nothing happened. It's that much. And so it's easy to say those folks had a mental illness. What's the difference if you're continually being punched in the face and you don't leave, and you feel like you're trapped, and then somebody says, look, everything's here, we can walk you out. Are you scared? I understand there's fear, and I'm not making the I know that sounds like an analogy to domestic violence, but I'm saying that in a situation where you're just being pounded and you do have an outlet and you do have resources. Not everyone does in domestic violence, unfortunately, and we don't have a system that caters to pulling women or men out of domestic violence. Let's just say, so let's just detach that for those folks that carry every word and write it down and analyze it. That is not what I meant to say. What I'm saying is, if you provide some way for somebody to get out and you say, look, this is going to help you in any situation, and they have the strength and the will and they want to get out, but then they continue to go back, even though they can see that everyone else is kind of seeing the same thing, you start to wonder. So there's no analogy between someone in domestic violence. It's just somebody that runs in the wall of the same problem and never gets the solution. Again, not the same thing with domestic violence. Okay. So just make sure that we're clear there. Not saying people that are in domestic violence are mentally challenged or have easy way outs, or they just are sitting there waiting for someone to get them out. It's way more complicated than that. We can do a whole thing on it. I'm not an expert in it. Certainly we all see it happen in the news. Things happen locally. So I just want to be clear. I don't want to put my foot in my mouth there. Back to Trump. So core issue here for me is that you have this fantasy that's created that validates the core belief. So it doesn't matter what Trump is. It doesn't matter what he does. He can shoot somebody on Fifth Avenue and get away with it. And that's the thing that's frustrating. The cult of Trump is what's frustrating with Trump. Again, not hating the individual, even on some of those podcasts in the past. I just need to be clear. I'm not looking for violence on anybody. I don't hate people. I just hate ideas and folks that bring them to the table with those ideas. I want to attack those ideas. It's a battle of ideas. That's it. So even Trump, I don't hate. I don't hate him. I dislike him in power, and he can go and have fun on his golf course and continue to scam the people that want to buy into his whatever. That's kind of the American way, apparently, until we change the system. Trump will be fine no matter what happens, whether he ever gets any justice, whether he wins the presidency. He's fine no matter what. He's bulletproof as far as Teflon. The rise, the excitement for Trump is just to be his name being called, whether it's good or bad. So as long as it's news, he's happy. He knows that's good. He knows the intentions on him. He's not going anywhere. You can't put a person that's in the spotlight in jail like that. He knows that. He just knows it. You forget all the presidential stuff. With his cult, you can't even convict the guy at this point. It seems. We'll see if the justice system actually works in this two-tier justice system he's crying about. actually kind of does anything, because anybody else that had this much smoke would be on fire. Let's just say that. So it's just insane that we're at here. But we're watching folks continue to ride this thing off the mountain, off the cliff. And those are the folks for me that I'm concerned about. This is family, this is friends, this is acquaintances, and I'm not sitting on a pedestal. I'm saying, like, knowing what your core beliefs are, or at least what you profess they are, somebody rides along with this much opposition to the core of what you think and believe on a daily basis, but somehow is hoisted upon this pedestal where there's a chance this person's going to be president. Got a very good chance. As I said before, if you watch a couple episodes, I actually give you reasons why he's going to win the presidency. Unfortunately, not in my, not something I really enjoy talking about, but it's the truth. So how do you change that? How do you get these people? How do you unbrainwash somebody? And I mean it. Like, how do you even get somebody out? I know that somebody said something Biden was doing that actually was a criminal trial. He's got to go. Like, I'm not going to riding with Biden. If he's doing something weird and he's caught doing it and he's doing illegal stuff, go. We got to get a new nominee. I already think he's too old. Again, I'm still going to vote for him because, again, placenta is better than Trump. But I'm not going down with the ship. Like, I'm not going to be like, oh, it's my guy. I mean, Trump was my president. I didn't like it, but he was not the guy I voted for, but he was my president. It's like, oh, you're not your president. Yeah, come on. He was my president. I loathed it. It was crazy. It was surreal for me. But, you know, the viewer request was about the narcissistic point of view. And I find that kind of played out in a way, not that the viewers this isn't a valid question, but I've talked so much about the narcissism and kind of how my affiliation with narcissists have been and how that affected my view, and how it's easy for me to see the pattern and know that he's going to be influenced by the very last thing that he hears that's pleasant. He's also got a sadistic perspective and, you know, wants to see other people pushed down so they go up. That's quintessential narcissista. You know, I had that one line that I really was proud of where I put the Italian accent and you know, quintessential narcissista, just because he's the perfect, and like, you can look it up. He's the definition of a narcissist, a malignant narcissist, in my opinion. I don't think he's sociopathic. I think he's super fragile, which sociopaths don't have any feelings. I think he does have feelings. And that's why I think he's a narcissist. Anyway, I'm not a psychologist, but that's why the narcissism thing is, to me, it's very cut and dried to see that. You got somebody that wants to be in the spotlight, that creates chaos to get it out, and is very vindictive. There's just binary thinking about every inner relationship. It's either on or off. He's either into the person or not. We see him. They start out fantastic. They go out shit. Very narcissistic. Narcissistic is very on or off. You're either in or out, and they got to continue to get the attention and the supply that they need. These are all things that are attributes of a narcissist. And so the question is, and I've said this before about the interaction of a narcissist, that is, it takes two to tango. And at some point, if you're engaging with a narcissist, at some point you ignore the lie. You say, you know what? I like that too much. I like this dude too much. I like this woman too much. I'm going to ignore that little major weird ass thing they lied about or whatever. I'm just going to ignore it. And so I argue that you have to give them permission to play the game with a narcissist. You have to kind of say at some point, okay, I'll play game. You're looking for some benefit. You realize it's transactional, or maybe you don't, but you think, well, it seems like there's response, there's stimulus. So you do that. And so it's like again, taking the analogy that the viewer had requested about narcissists and Trump, I argue that the folks are looking for an out. They're looking, they know they're being bedazzled. That's why they've got to have these deflectors that say, you know what? It's not the words, or he doesn't mean, first it's he didn't mean that, or that's not what he said, or that's not what that means. First it's not that, that's not what it means. Then it's that's not what he said, and then that's not what you heard, and that's not even close to what he meant from the get-go. And then, I mean, they'll tell you, kind of going in that circle eventually, that you can't know what he wants or means because he doesn't ever do anything about anything he says. That's where they'll end up. And you'll be like, what the fuck? So you're saying, like, ultimately you're voting for somebody who doesn't say what they mean. And then this is the final defense, that he doesn't really mean or do what he's going to say. So they're voting for someone who doesn't mean what they say, won't do what they say. They have no idea where they stand, but this is where they've ended up. And so when you paint that picture, it's so easy to go around and get reaction videos talking to these folks because they're in la la land. It just doesn't make sense for the ultimate. Where does this end up? It's a cult. It's easy to say it's a cult. It's easy to say, like, you're going to end up drinking blue liquid or drinking Kool-Aid. By the way, we all know where that reference comes from, right? Come on, you're not just saying it without knowing Jim Jones. Drinking the Kool-Aid, that's what he did. He poisoned everybody with the Kool-Aid and everyone died. And that was kind of why we say drinking the Kool-Aid. If you don't know, little factoid for you. Actually, it's not a factoid because a factoid would be incorrect. It might not have been Kool-Aid either. It could have been some other kind of thing. But it might have been Kool-Aid too, because I know that's where the reference what came from. Anyway, so it's easy to talk about Trump and how crazy he is and all the crazy shit he's going to say. It's difficult to rectify or reconcile with the fact that people can't detach themselves from this train no matter what it looks like. Roger Stone went down with Tricky Nixon to the point where he got the tattoo on his back. And so even with the disgrace, and Richard Nixon kind of folded back into the bushes like Homer Simpson in that meme, not unlike not what happens today, obviously, with our presidents that are former impeached presidents. They don't fold. But they go down with it. I mean, he's still a fan. Roger Stone, who was a Trumper, one of Trump's inner circle folks, ended up going to jail, I believe. Again, I lost track of that saga. There's so many fucking people going down around him. And Rudy Giuliani was the funniest, I guess, watching him melt in front of you, in front of the Four Seasons Lawn Care Center, where he had one of his final kind of big to-do pressers with his face melting in the sun. It was just a sight to behold. But you have these folks, you have Trump, you have this narcissist, you have the folks that decide to work for him, but the folks that will go down with the ship, I don't know. How do you reprogram them? How do you wake them up without them believing that you're just trying to tell them that they're wrong and hurt their ego? And you're basically going right against their core belief. They've seen what you've seen. They hear what you hear. They've seen him do the things that he said he's going to do or didn't do, or not do the things he said he's going to do, but they're still in there. So what's ticking inside to say, yeah, this person really doesn't have it out me? All he's got to say is he cares for me and I believe it. And then he can just take his buttocks and put it on my face and take a dump. That's what it seems like. I don't know. Do they like the smell? I mean, I'm not going to take that any further. I'm just saying, what the fuck? I know that even with religions and people's beliefs, it's hard for folks to change religion. What I find interesting, though, I'm going to throw out a little fact that I learned. Just like we have questionnaires about gender and everything else in the United States, in other countries like Nigeria, they ask you your religious affiliation. And so people, they try to associate, make sure they have a balance of Muslims and Christians and Jews, and however that works. I'm not sure if it's just Muslims and Christians or it's Jews as well. But the point is that what that makes people do is it makes people just switch religions when they want to switch jobs. So I think it makes religion like, okay, this is just something you might have a core belief, but you declare this for while you're doing this thing. I don't know. It just seemed weird. Why did I go there? No idea. Found it interesting that it was a little fact that I thought I'd share about Nigeria, my motherland, by the way. And that's a whole story that I have to tell about me finding my brothers and sisters. Got a whole family. All right, Trumper. That's going to be podcast 17/B personal subscription only for you guys that are just like limping along with the occasional likes, not giving me all the love. Just joking. All good. All right, let me get back to, as I'm talking about narcissism, I'm kind of sounding a little bit self-absorbed. So let me get into the Trump situation. Watch that documentary. There's an analogy there between folks watching a body decay in front of their eyes in real time, in front of the world's eyes. It had internet followers. It was a YouTube channel. I'm jealous of the income they were able to generate to support this community that they lived in. It wasn't a mansion, but certainly enough to pay a couple assistants and some other things. Jokes aside, I use that analogy because the fable of the emperor has no clothes, I've used ad nauseum, but it still sticks. So I'm going darker and going into the real cult, which is, real cults and where they end up. And I think that most cults have a destructive ending, or they split, or they find at their core they disagree with major things and they end up making factions and churches split up. And I'm not saying that big religions are cults, but certainly one of the things that makes a cult is certainly that it's different. People have decided that these folks are doing these things that don't make sense. So it could be that just from the outside, it seems like a cult, but when you're in it, it's not a cult. So one could argue that who knows if you're in a cult or not, right? I mean, no matter what your religion, I don't know. I'm not saying that. I don't hate on religions. I'm just saying, like, is cult just the size? Is that what makes a cult? Is it just the size of it? Is it a community at some point? Right? This is kind of how they kind of hide their growth, is their communities first, right? And then you find out they're doing dark shit and forcing things, and always become some weird patriarchal bullshit because men use their dumbass strength and women's fear of them to make horrible things happen. I feel like and then women just kind of join in. So it's usually patriarchal bullshit. I'm not a sociologist. These are just observations from my small time on the earth. You can Google them. You can check them out. Become a researcher. Tell me I'm wrong, especially in the comments. Let's wrap it, though. Let's just finalize this with my major point I wanted to land on, which is that the narcissism and the crazy that Trump brings to the table is interesting. It's the rage bait that the media wants. If you're turning on MSNBC, CNN, all that shit, you're probably like fucking going nuts from day to day. I don't do that. I'm not saying I'm better than you. I'm just saying I can't take it. So I know what they're going to do to me. I know they're going to trigger me. I don't watch that shit. So I've had less and less trigger Trump stuff in my feed because I've detached from the mainstream. Doesn't mean I'm not reading or trying to stay abreast of what's happening. But I know that kind of checking in every day to these stories, they've got to do something to keep you interested. I know I'm just putting on an hour. Can't imagine a whole network with all those people trying to fill that up and get your eyeballs on it. I just got little old me. So they're just going to do crazy shit to keep you, doing jigs and throwing out things and making you scared and keeping you amped up. So you got to tune in. Oh, what's this going to happen tomorrow? I talked about that with somebody else the other day about how, I was on that train where they're like, all right, tomorrow Trump's going to happen. So you're checking in every day, seeing the status. And finally, you realize that they just been hooking you. And they're giving you piecemeal, and they're just slicing up the information into content. So they should have done an hour-long show. Instead, they're doing that hour-long show over like 4 months. Okay, that's what happens in the media. And because I understand that, as somebody who creates content, I'm looking at my old videos like, you guys are looking pretty sexy to slice up and put out there. I'm probably going to do it, But imagine, a whole network having to do that for all the time. So you're getting this stuff that's really engaged. It's made to engage you. So I would argue anyone that's out there that's hooked into Fox News, CNN, MSNBC, take a break, read, find some publications where you can filter out, find some authors, find some writers, find specific hosts, go find their blog, but consume the information yourself and you'll be less raged about Trump. And I know it's not telling you this because I know better than you. I just know this works for me. And I still feel informed. I still go to the places where I know people congregate to talk about news, like Reddit and other sites and routers. And you go to Al Jazeera and you go to New York Times and you look at these bigger publications, BBC. Who cares? You look there, you start there. Done a podcast about filtering information, but the Trump rage bait shit is a huge part of the problem because it then propagates and angers the other side. So it propagates itself into more anger. And so by me saying this, or you me saying how it's stupid to vote for Trump, become more defiant. I'm the worst. I don't like to be told to do anything. I could be walking to the wall, walking over to the door, ready to pull the handle open. Someone behind me says, hey, can you open? No, I can't. My body's like, I don't know, the trauma. Can't take orders for some. No, I was going to do it, but now I'm going to pout like a 2-year-old because, so no one likes it. I'm worse than everyone else, but no one likes it. Look, your friends, your neighbors, you know somebody, I know somebody. You love them. You don't like them. You don't give a shit. But you got to be able to break out of your mold or you're not going to survive in this world. You got to be able to adapt. You can't always think that the folks that are on your team, especially that get in power, are always going to be on your side. That means I keep an eye on Democrats, and I'm not happy and thrilled with Biden's foreign policy in many ways and other things. Okay. But it's not cult-like. You got to be able to criticize. You got to be able to criticize. And I understand why you wouldn't. By the way, I'm going to wrap with this one point. When Obama was elected, and same with Biden, I don't do a lot of criticism directly on them. And I understand that may seem like I'm in a cult. But I can. The problem is there's such a wave of criticism coming in that I'm trying to find the nuggets of good. I can hear it, and I can take it, and I can see it. If something happens where he needs to be impeached, I'm not going to be like, oh, no, that's fake news. Bring the evidence, whatever. But there's a different attachment to my feelings about Joe Biden than some of these folks that have feelings with this guy that keeps punching them in the face and they're just like ready to die die on the hill for him. It's just mind blowing. So in summary, the narcissism is interesting. Trump is interesting in that he's going to just be like a Gatling gun of scandals, which I've said before. It's like a Gatling gun of scandals coming at you. No one fucking can handle every bullet. I don't care if you can catch a couple between your teeth. You can't catch them all. It's a Gatling gun of scandals coming at you, so no one can handle that. So you got to figure out how to deal with your Trump rage if you're a Trump hater. And if you're a Trump lover, you got to kind of take a break because you can't just see all the hate that's coming at him. There's smoke there. You got to say, well, where's the fire? Maybe your news sources aren't telling you the right thing. And so when you just turn on CNN and you get all angry, or you turn on Fox News, don't know why you would. Perhaps there's a couple folks on there and there's, the Five's interesting, yada, yada. But when the network gets sued for fraud and basically argues that they're an entertainment network, you kind of go, well, what is it? CNN, is that even in the same boat as Fox? Not really. I would say CNN is a news organization, not an entertainment network, but one could argue either way. All right. So that's it. Narcissism, Trump. What's crazier is the cult followers. Why do people continue to do it? Why do people twist up the words? Why do you see leaders like Lindsey Graham who call him a xenophobe beforehand, which means he doesn't like people that are different than him? And then, now he's kind of touting like Trump's the best thing in the world. Don't know. Don't understand it. Doesn't make sense. But that's going to be it. Something to think about. If this pisses you off, leave a comment. If you think I missed a couple points, that's fine. I had more clips that I could show you all the things Trump said. Jimmy Kimmel did some stuff, and I could wrap them up. But this is more about me yelling and screaming. I just wanted to give you a little taste of some of those things. You can see the clips yourself. Do some research. Find out watch people flip-flop. Why do people flip-flop like that? Why do people say, oh, he's an awful person? Then they start working with him. They find that he's sustainable. They say good things, and then they leave, and he's awful again. What is that power? What's going on? I mean, start questioning that weird-ass shit. So, I mean, you had senators going to his trial, like, defending him like they were his attorney. Bizarre shit. Like, let the evidence go where it is. You don't need PR at a trial. Just a weird thing, like sucking up to him. I mean, it's really mafioso, dictator, Putin kind of shit that you read about. And, we watch the followers just kind of suck on that tit like it's never going to end. And the milk's just going to keep coming. And it's just awful. So I don't know. That was a nasty analogy, but whatever. Maybe I'm thirsty. I don't know. Maybe I need a boob. Who knows? It's frustrating too to lose folks. I've lost folks that I don't have relationships with. For me, I'm a little bit black and white, probably to my chagrin. Is that I just kind of see it as the racial component being the thing. And so anyone that's in the cult is just kind of like, all right, well, it's not important to you. And our relationship must not mean anything. That's how I think of it. And it's awful. And you can feel sad for me. But I just see it as a major flaw. The other thing that I've kind of struggled with talking to these cult people is that, like, how do you continue? It angers me, the folks that I know poo-pooing the things that I feel are important to me. And I guess it would feel that way if it was their issue too, right? But if you're friends with me, or you're my brother, sister, cousin, nephew, niece, friend, colleague, again, I'm not suggesting my family's a bunch of racists or anything like that. I promise. It's good family. No. But I'm just saying, for example, those people that you got close to you that may fall into that situation, it makes me think differently of them. I remember when the crisis was happening, you kind of see how people are made. You can always see what someone's made of when a crisis happens. And so we had this major deficit of character that was on your team. They chose the person that had the deficit of character over even what I would consider mainstream thought of what this person was. So it becomes personal for me too. Is it right? I mean, am I in the cult of loathing of the cult members that I'm basically created my own cult? I mean, it's a cult of me. I don't collaborate with anybody about it. I really don't. I just kind of go, you're Trumper. I mean, I imagine it would be like a non-starter in the dating world. It's just like, all right, this is Trumper. Like, no. Like, you just, I can't. Like, no. I mean, you just, like, it's like what's the point? Like, the relationship is weird because core values are different. And it just makes it weird. And it doesn't mean that you're awful if you voted for Trump or you love Trump. I'm not saying that. I just think you're an idiot. No, I mean, I'll make the case that you're not an idiot for you, because you don't know any better and you just don't know enough about the issues, that you just kind of just see it as a financial thing and you just want to vote for that because you're in that bucket where it does make sense financially for you to just say, fuck it, he's a little racist, but he says this, but you know what, I can use that $500,000 tax break to do XYZ and feed some homeless folks. So I'm good. I don't know what makes you rest easy. I don't know. But the folks that are benefiting from Trump are at the top percentage. Everything else is just a con. And we're all kind of in it for the ride. And we got to watch folks be hypnotized by this bullshit. So in finality for today's episode, I'll say that's the frustrating rage baiting thing, is watching your friends and family go apeshit over this person that's crazy. So I don't know what more to say about that. But one more last thing.
You well know I'm from East Tennessee, and we don't usually talk like that. And he's from New York, and that's the way folks. He's Trump being Trump.
All right, I didn't mean to throw that extra one in. What I wanted to say is real quick. Got some responses from yesterday about my engagement level, and some folks understand, some folks don't, and I get it. I really do understand. I try not to spam today just to give you a break. I do. Facebook limits what I can do often because apparently I'm doing so much spamming that they just stop me from doing it. So that's, you can argue that I need to be told a lesson. I don't want to push anyone away, and I don't want to specifically push you to my YouTube channel. But I think that's probably where you should go if you really care about watching this grow, is follow me on YouTube. Look, get me to 50. If I can get to 50 by the end of the week, I'll think of something. I'll think of something tomorrow. Give me a suggestion. 2 subscribers. That means you can subscribe. You already have YouTube. You pay for it. Just subscribe. It's not going to hurt you. Just subscribe. Get me to 50. I need 2 more subscribers. But I'm not trying to push you there. And I don't want to just push people away from the platforms of Meta and all that stuff that you check family out and everything else. And I understand the spammy feeling of marketing. And I understand folks find it interesting, me talking about narcissism when I'm doing all this self-promotion. That's not narcissism, by the way. That's just me promoting. And being self-promoting isn't narcissism. It's not one and the same. They can be decoupled. I have empathy. But I got that before, by the way. I've gotten like, oh, you think you're so great posting pictures of myself, which is why I took a lot of my personal pictures down, because people think whatever. I can't help that I'm ridiculously good looking. It's just what happens. It's my gene pool. And then when I post it, people go ape shit when I post internet pictures. I'm joking about all this, but it's something where it does makes me self-conscious. And so I don't try to post as many pictures of you as myself as I probably should, trying to grow a personality brand as I am. Okay. Brand is Nate Bomberger, whatever the fuck I end up with in my, in my final form, however that ends up. And so it has to be some self-promotion, but I also don't want to push those folks that are helping push me up. But I'm also very aware of this fact. Listen, I don't know, and I'm not going to know all the folks that I need to reach to hope get this to the level where I want to get to, where we have some real influence. I'm not going to know everybody. So a lot of the people that are going to follow this channel are going to be strangers to me, and I need to bring them into the fold. And so I need to yell and scream. If you know about me, that's fantastic. You can mute me, but tell someone about me. And eventually I'll be mainstream and you won't have to say anything. Okay. That's the goal, right? That we have mainstream appeal and we can say the shit we want to say and have it reverberate through the ether. And we call that our little stamp on society, my little baby that my gift to the world. It's my art. It's our art. Join the movement, yada, yada, yada. Oh, one last thing is totally slacking on my TikToks. If you've been watching, set up subscriber thing there. I'm just throwing stuff together. I'm not looking to grow my subscriber base. I have a subscription model, but some real good news I got to end with. I'm defaulting a little bit on the TikTok, still growing, still pushing my content up there. They love the long form videos, believe it or not. I get like 50 to 200 views on them, which is great. I mean, maybe it's the same 200 views, but I'm happy with it. But I got my website, not smashingtheparty.com, but I got some new domains and I got my main domain back up and running because I was slacking on my SSL certs. Don't even talk about it. It was weird shit happening with CloudFront for those techies. It was a weird thing happening in my HTML that was being served from CloudFront and was not working on one domain. It was working the other. Fixed it. Was one of those things where I'm like, what the fuck is it? I don't think it's JavaScript, blah, blah, blah. It ended up being not JavaScript, but a tag and a weird old school HTML file that I never touched using a static generator that I never touched, yada, yada. So fixed it. What that means is their domino effect is now I can start linking things back up and get my approved credibility for pushing ads. So one of the things I got approved for Smash the Party is to be able to push ads for political purposes. I can push ads for housing. I got all the disclaimers. When my domain was stolen, that got ripped from my heart. And I lost that because one of the checks they do is a validation for the website. And when I lost the website, lost the validation. So that's going to be cooking up again. What does that mean for you? That means blogs coming back. Got all this old stuff. We're going to republish it. What does that mean for those folks that don't know? I wrote some shit. I wrote some good shit, some bad shit, but I wrote, and that was one other form of media that I was pumping out to leave my little stamp on. So that's coming back. So the good news is live streams growing, fan base is growing. If you want to call it fan base, my reach, I like to call it, because some people are fans, some people aren't. But the reach is growing. Just as I said, that graph is still looking good. Don't want to jinx it. Apologize for the spam, but I got to continue to self-promote. I got to. And I'll help promote you if you want. If you come on the show, we'll talk about it. I don't care. It's fun. I enjoy this. You know I love this. I'm not professionally trained, but I'm going to get to the point where you're not going to know the fucking difference, and I'm going to have that appeal. So keep supporting, keep watching. Make sure you check out tomorrow at 10:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. I don't have a topic for tomorrow, so I'm going to give you another option. If you have something you want me to riff on, or you want me to put a counterpoint together for something you never see me talk about, you like to hear me, or even better, you want me to research something, bring it. I don't give a shit if it's 10 minutes before the show. If it's a good topic and I can get fired up, I'll whip something together with my little AI agents that I use for my researches, since I don't have enough money to afford a real person yet. And we'll put a show together. And I kid you not, I've done it to the point where I've made phone calls, said, what do I talk about? Generated a topic. And some of those shows were really good because I kind of let my flow and my art come together. What I call my art, my word flower, my word barrage, my assault on your mind and thoughts using strong language, things that'll make you think. All right, listen, thank you for listening. We'll check in tomorrow at 10:30. That's all I got. Sorry, Instagram, for checking in late. I know you missed it. I will put the whole thing up at some point. So maybe go to Facebook, log into your Facebook account and check it out there. But that's it, folks. I will see you